Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sport with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, Jeff Trunapole, the Iceman. And as always, I'm bringing sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the Cincinnati Reds, who are very, very disappointing right now. But it is what it is. Now, if you found the show, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up. We're up to 1,119 subscribers. As always, I appreciate every single one of you guys. Now, every show is brought to you by T Properties. T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out their website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. All right, yep, I'm wearing red stuff today because, well, I felt like wearing it even though they lost today 9-4. Jesse Winker and Nick Castellanos are the only reason to watch the team right now. I think they are in a battle for the NL MVP. It's just very frustrating watching the Reds right now. Like I've said before, all they had to do was just a little bit, and we could have had a pretty good team. And I retweeted something out that Jeff Passan just put out. The Tampa Bay Tampa Bay Rays, my wife's favorite team because they're down in Florida. That's where she's from, are winning 10 games in a row, and they spend absolutely no money. But they win all the time. And the Reds spent money last year, and we barely made the playoffs. This year spent no money, and we're not doing very good. But let's get to some better news today. Today is the official day for season ticket holders to vote for the Bengals Ring of Honor. And with that in mind, I brought in my buddy from Locked On Bengals. Joe. I said Joe. Why did it say Joe? I just noticed that. It said Joe instead of Jake. Wow.
You almost got the name right.
I know. You know what? That's bad on my part. I just thought when I'm like, hey, so why does it say Joe? Jeez, you're the second person that I've messed the name up on. I had Chris Welch on here and I spelled his name wrong. How do I call you? I had put Joe Goodberry. That's what hold on. Let me try that again. How about this one? I clicked the wrong one. That better? Gee,
that looks about right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I got all these different intros and stuff. They're all in orange. And I got Jake and Joe. And I'm like, I had it like all planned out when I got on the show and I click and I practice and then I hit it. It goes, Joe, like that's not Joe. It's Jake. Anyway, how you doing, Jake?
I'm doing good, man. We got all the J's covering the Bengals. It makes it challenging. You got Joe, you got me, you got James, you got John, you got Jeff, you got all the J names out there in the world. It's challenging.
Exactly. Anyway, so all right, let's get into this. Today is the first day that season ticket holders are able to vote for the Bengals Ring of Honor, and I put it out there of who I voted for, and let me bring that up real quick. It's on Twitter, and like I say, you can vote. I think all Bengals fans should vote with their heart. Vote for who you want. But if your heart is not telling you Ken Riley and Ken Anderson, then your heart's wrong. To me, the first two should be, in my own opinion, Ken Riley and Ken Anderson that the fans vote in to the Ring of Honor. What's your thoughts on that there, Jake?
Yeah, I'm totally open to that idea. I think that's what I said when this topic first came up when they announced the Ring of Honor. Like the first two surely will be Ken and Ken.
I would think so.
They're the most overdue. I mean, there might be some arguments for some other old school players. I think for sure Ken Anderson, like I wonder how much they thought about just making him an at-large, like they did with Anthony. Because if there's anybody else that, absolutely
right.
And there's several. I think pretty much everybody on the inaugural ballot will eventually get into the Ring of Honor. At least most of them. And that's what I talked about this on the show, on today's show, the one that we released on Sunday night for Locked On Bengals. And I'm going to be interested to see how they manage it. Do they do some sort of Hall of Fame sort of style where they have minimum vote thresholds or something like that at some point? And it'll be interesting to see how many people they put in every year and how they manage new people like Andrew Whitworth when he retires or some of the guys currently in the league still. And I'm excited to see how they do it going forward. But this first one, from what I've seen, looks like it's going to be Ken and Ken. I do wonder, how things might be. Unfortunately, we lost Ken Riley, right?
Right.
And when that sort of thing happens, there's justifiably, I think, a little bump in attention, and he wasn't mentioned in the NFL's in memoriam segment,
Right.
which was hugely embarrassing, I think,
Yeah.
for the league.
So especially when he's fifth at all time in interceptions still.
Yeah,
I mean, how are you leaving that guy
yeah,
out?
yeah, totally. But I do wonder, how that's impacted things. I think that
Mm-hmm.
given that, it's totally justifiable. Let those guys in, and um, we'll see where it goes from there. But there's a bunch of guys that have been waiting for a
Yeah.
long time that are some guys that were before my time for sure, who were very deserving of getting into the Ring
Yeah.
of Honor. I mean,
Well,
yeah,
these are
look
the
at this list, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Like Bob Trumpy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Parrish, who played
Mm-hmm.
with Ken Riley, and
Yep.
and then you'll have David Fulcher. I mean, there's a lot of guys here on
Right.
this list that will get into the Ring of Honor, and I assume all of these guys, most of these guys, will eventually get in. I don't know.
I would think so. I mean, it's a who's who of Bengaldom. Now, I mean, to me, like I said, I think it should be Bengals fans should use it to put Ken Riley and Ken Anderson in our Ring of Honor, because we're all complaining that they're not in the actual Hall of Fame. So
Yeah.
how are we going to complain that they're not in the Hall of Fame when we don't put them in our own Ring of Honor? So that's why I think those two should definitely be in. Now, my next two might be a little different than what most people think, but I think the next two, if they go 2, if they go 4, I don't know how they're going to do this, next year. But I think it's Willie Anderson's got to be the next one, because another one who I think should be in the Hall of Fame, and if he's not in our Ring of Honor, how can we argue that he should be in the Hall of Fame? And then the other one for me is Dave Lapham, just because career longevity of being, Mr. Bengal, the Bengals broadcaster. He played in the Freezer Bowl. He played in the very first, Super Bowl. I mean, he knows as much about the Bengals as the Browns do. He's been here almost as long. He got drafted in 1974. So to me, the next two, I would put Willie in and Lapp in.
I like Willie. I think after Willie, it gets to be. Can you put that list back up there?
I
After
sure can.
Willie, I think it gets to be a real debate, because I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a real great argument in favor of Boomer. Just
Yep.
go with the next quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Boomer was great for the Bengals. I think there's a great argument for Chad. I think
Yep.
there's a great argument for Isaac Curtis, and I think at some point Bob Trumpy, like the long time season ticket holders, are going to get these old school guys in there. Max Montoya, we haven't said his name yet,
Right.
but I do think that Willie is certainly in the pantheon and is a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame. I saw a little tweet the other day about PFF going back and doing some more games from before HD TV. So hopefully that provides a little bit of evidence to back up Willie's cause for his great stretch of play at right tackle. But yeah, I mean, if you just go by how good these guys were, Willie, I mean, I've maintained since I've had a voice that he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
So I think that makes it easy to make him the third guy in. He's also argued that they should have done a bigger inaugural class. And
he's got
I'm
a point on that.
sympathetic to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because the thing is, they're not good. It's not like they're going to run out of guys. I mean, we got 17 of them right now. I mean, and then you got you got the guys that hopefully are playing for the Bengals right now that eventually could be in. But I mean, there's still a list of guys. We're talking about this with Dave Lapham. There's still a list of guys out there that could be in the Ring of Honor that aren't even on this list that we could name off. I mean, Tommy Casanova comes to mind. I mean, guys like that, and that's where the people like younger than me. I mean, I know these guys, but in the 70s, I was really young. So Bob Trumpy, I never saw him play. I honestly remember him more of the sports talk show host on 700 WOW for forever. So I remember him as that first, and then honestly. Then I realized he played for the Bengals. I mean, he retired in 77. I was 4. So that's the thing where there are guys back in the 70s and early 60s that, you could put in that younger Bengals fans don't know about. And if that's been the problem with not the Bengals not talking about or showing interest in their past. So that's the thing too, is there's a lot of guys that could be in there. And I do agree with Willie. It could be a bigger class. It should be.
And I haven't even said Tim Crumry's name, right? It's a
Right.
name that comes to mind very early
Hmm.
when you look at this stuff. It's a name that I've talked about on the podcast quite a bit. All these guys very deserving. It does make it very
Absolutely.
challenging, and it's going to be who guys are familiar with, who voters are familiar with,
Hmm.
and I'm going to be very interested to see how the Bengals manage this because it's going to be interesting.
I mean, I know some people are like, well, I don't know if anybody's upset about this, but we have a kicker on here. But Jim Breach is I think, is he still the all-time leading scorer for the Bengals in history of the franchise? I know he was at one time. I don't know if he still is or not.
I believe so, but I could not be held to
Right.
account for
Yeah.
that.
I think he is, but I'm not exactly sure. But I mean, if you look at the franchise, he's the best kicker we've ever had. So, I mean, and then you got Collinsworth, who's, people get mad at him for the way they think he doesn't always back the Bengals. But I mean, he's always, got to be looked at as neutral. But if you ever talk to Collinsworth, if you ever seen him on, Bengal Jim's show or anything, he's a Bengal through and through.
He's
Yeah.
still got love. He's still in
Yeah.
Cincinnati. He's why PFF is in Cincinnati. And Breach,
Exactly.
I did confirm, Jim Breach does still lead the Bengals in all-time scoring.
So those are one. Like I said, we can have a ton of conversation about this. Now, Elite 83, which you are new to the show, how you doing? He says it's BS that only the season ticket holders get the vote, which I kind of agree. I think they should at least let us vote first, maybe, and then later on let the rest of the fans vote. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think it's good to just give? Because there are some season ticket holders, they've had them for years. Yeah. I mean, I've only had them for 2 years now. So
I think it does make sense that they're letting their most loyal and supportive fans financially vote first.
Right.
I mean, from a business perspective, I get why they would do that, but I also understand the perspective that I've never owned Bengals season tickets. I don't even live in Cincinnati. I've been following this team pretty closely for, nearly 20 years now. I didn't follow them super closely when I was a young kid. I didn't really know what was going on, right? Who knows what's going on when you're a young kid? But I'm not going to get a vote, right? And I'm okay with that, but I also hear that. So maybe they, do some sort of game day polling.
Yeah.
In the future where they let people that are buying tickets, they're at the games, let those people vote. I guess that, that does open the door to visiting fans voting, which I don't know if you want.
Right. True.
So
yeah, we don't want any Squealers fans.
That does make it a challenge because
right.
they do show up at Paul Brown Stadium, unfortunately. So
unfortunately,
we'll see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I'm ecstatic that they actually have a Ring of Honor, and how nice is it, Jake, that we could actually talk about who's next, not talk about, well, if we have a Ring of Honor, this is who would be. We actually are going to have one, so I'm excited about that, and it's about time, and like I said, I think it's going to help us hopefully get more of our players into the Hall of Fame, which is the biggest thing that we need to do, and with that in mind, we have Bengal Jim, who's got his rally June 19th, Jungle to the Hall. And if you guys have not registered, I strongly encourage you to register and get up there and get your voices heard. It's going to be a really fun rally. I heard Willie Anderson might be making an appearance there. We get a tour of the Hall of Fame. He's got hotels lined up. He's got a brewery restaurant real close by. It should be a great time. And I plan on being there. Like I said, Jake, this is how dedicated I am to this. We have our vacation already planned. So my wife and daughter are going to leave on Thursday. I am not leaving until Sunday, so I could drive 4 hours up to Canton and go to this thing and drive 4 hours back home and then jump on a plane on Sunday to go on vacation with my family. So if I could do that, anybody who's in the Cincinnati area, and I know not you're in Canada, Jake. I don't even think you could even leave the country yet, can you?
Not very easily.
But if you are in Ohio and you are a Bengals fan, we need to get as many people to this place as we can to get our voices heard.
Yeah, I think that's great. Jim does great work. I'm hoping to get down there for week 4. That seems to be the plan right now, is a bunch of out-of-towners might be coming in for week 4. And if that does happen, we talked about doing some sort of, podcast kind of event.
Yeah.
We have almost enough listeners to fill the stadium.
I remember you guys saying that.
It's crazy. So if we could get an event together either at a Bengal gym tailgate, or he offered to use his local contacts. So I really appreciate his support for us. We had him on the show once too. He was great to talk to, and he's just a really positive influence in that Bengals community. And good for him, man. Organizing this must have been a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, I've talked to him, and he's asked me to really promote it as much as I can because he's stressed out that people won't come. I'm like, dude, people are going to come. I said I will do my part. And I will talk about it as much as I possibly can.
Yeah,
but he's got way more viewers. He's got a bigger voice than I do. So more people watch him and pay attention to him on Twitter and Facebook than they do me. I'm just a peon when it comes to Jim. But yeah, he's a one dedicated Bengal fan, and he loves his Bengals. I mean, I love my Bengals too. But to put all this together it's
great.
Yeah,
see it.
Yeah, because he's got media there too. So I think it'll be very, very interesting. Now, let's get to this year's team. And do you think they're done adding? I should say that. Let's start off that way. Do you think the Bengals are done adding anything to the offensive line, to linebacking core, or you think they're set, or where do you think they're at?
Well, when you say adding, like you mean
like
somebody you've heard of?
Preferably, yeah. like how about like Morgan Moses? I mean, I know you guys talked about it. James and I talked about it on the show here Thursday.
Yeah, I don't think the Bengals are interested. We talked about this a little bit more on today's episode. We talked about it last week as well. They when we first talked about it, I was under the misguided impression that Riley Reif had played some guard in his NFL career. He hasn't played guard since he was in college.
Ooh.
And I know that there was conjecture when he was first signed, because this was before we knew the Bengals were very interested in Jamar Chase. It was still in the air who they were going to draft. And there was some speculation at that point. Where are these guys going to line up?
Right.
If they do draft Penei Sewell, is Riley Reif going to kick inside? And he said, I'll play wherever the team needs me to play.
Right.
That being said, moving to guard is not always like, yeah, Riley Reif probably could do it. He probably has a skill set for it, but it's not just like, yeah, I'm going to play guard now and it's going to be fine. It's different. Versus a guy like Jackson Carman, who also only really played tackle at Clemson. He said that he took practice reps at guard, but the way he plays left tackle, you go watch how quick he likes to get on guys and initiate contact. He kind of plays tackle. He has some reps at tackle that look like he's playing guard.
Right.
Just from I want to play in a phone booth kind of perspective. And so, I just think that makes it more of a projection. And then the question really becomes, if you were to sign Morgan Moses, you're adding a lot of depth to the team. You're adding tackle depth in Morgan Moses. Now you also have Riley Reif as an option in case somebody gets hurt. And that's great. You're hypothetically adding guard depth because hypothetically Riley Reif is your best left guard. And now you've added guard depth because that pushes everyone else down the depth chart. But I think there's a question that is Morgan Moses a better right tackle than Riley Reif? Maybe. Right. It's probably pretty close. And even if that's true, is he better enough at right tackle to displace Riley Reif and the resources allocated to Riley Reif and make him move to left guard? And then the subsequent question then becomes, is Riley Reif going to be a good left guard? Is he better than what we have at left guard? Is this doing more than just adding depth to the roster? Because it would add depth. There's no challenging that it would add depth to this team. That would be the primary reason you would do that sort of thing. But I think there is a fair question about, does it make the starters better? And does it make them appreciably better? Or would those resources be better spent somewhere else? So I don't think that the Bengals, are really interested in bringing in a guy that is going to be looking to start at tackle. I think if it is a tackle, it's going to be a lower level kind of player. I think the same thing for the interior offensive line, the names we've talked about there, like Nick Easton, who have been kind of backup swing guards. I think that's kind of what we're looking at this point. And we might not see it until training camp. Right.
Well, the thing is, other guys might get cut too. So you never know. They might be waiting to see what happens there. Now, the guy I'm surprised that still hasn't signed yet is Trey Hendrickson. I'm surprised he hasn't signed with anybody yet.
Sorry, who now? Trey Hendrickson is a Bengal.
Or not. All crud. They did the hashtag Trey Day.
Oh, Trey Turner.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Trey Turner. Sorry.
Yeah. So the thing with Trey Turner is he wasn't very good last year.
Mm-hmm.
He
One of
was
his worst years.
he was quite bad last year, and he has been very good in his career. My impression is that the Bengals are not interested, and the reported price tag of $2-3 million is what he's looking for. He's still
Right.
out there.
Right.
I mean, that tells you what the NFL thinks of him. He was injured last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the whole story. He wasn't so good before he got hurt either. So, it's a possibility that he could still revert to his previous form,
Yeah.
or maybe not.
Well,
But
I'm looking more for just guys right now, honestly, for backups. Because that's the thing. Because if what happened last year happens again, which knock on wood, hopefully we don't get injured like we did. If Jonah goes down and Reef goes down, we're in the same position that we were last year. And you got Fred Johnson and Adeniji, which I actually think Adeniji is good, but it just leaves us thin. And that's where I just want to stack talent and have guys backing up. And just real quick, as you were talking about Reef moving from tackle to guard, that you don't know if he can do it or not. A great person who can't do it is Fred Johnson. He cannot play guard. Yeah. So just because you play tackle does not mean you can move to guard, and that's a great example of it right there. But getting back to backing or getting more backups, that's more, I guess, of the point that I'm looking at right now. I know I was when Morgan Moses came out, I was like, oh yeah, let's go get him. And everybody's like, you just want to get everybody who's out there. I'm like, well, I just want I want to have enough people that if somebody gets injured, we have a good person to back up or move them over. That's my biggest thing, because that's the biggest problem we had. Last year, our offensive line was terrible, and then it got hurt, and our backups weren't that good. So that's the biggest thing I'm worried about.
It's challenging, right? And generally, you're not looking for guys that have been long-term NFL starters to come in and be backups unless they don't have a starting market for a reason, in which case, why are you interested in having them on the team anyway?
Right.
I do think that Morgan Moses will probably sign somewhere to start. I don't think that the Bengals will put the resources there. I think later in the summer we'll see some extensions happen. They'll eat up some of the cap space they have left. Yep, Jesse Bates, Sam Hubbard potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think they want to keep both of those guys on longer term deals, and I think that given the amount of cap space they have left, Jamar Chase will eat some of that up when he signs. We'll see how they structure his deal, how much of that cap hit comes into this year versus future years. But the way they've structured deals and the way that they've left their salary cap unused, I believe they plan to use a lot of this year's cap for Jesse Bates and or Sam Hubbard extensions, which means they won't be using those dollars on high tier external guys at this point. There are a lot still out there. There really are a lot of big, I don't know about how high caliber the players are at this point, but there's a lot of big names still out there, especially like interior defensive line, not just Geno Atkins, but other guys in that ilk of his age group that have been very, very good football players in their career, still free agents. So there's a lot of guys out there. I think we'll probably wait till training camp for a lot of them. And as far as what I think the Bengals are going to do, I think it's likely, the Nick Easton type that is, played probably one contract, maybe a contract in a 1-year deal, has been a backup at times, has done some starting. And if you're looking for depth, I think that that's kind of appropriate, that kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is too, with I just want to get to I guess our future moves, which is what people are talking about. If we move Carmen Jackson from guard to tackle, I think there's a very good chance, maybe not next year, maybe 2 years but down the road, we'll have to see. But I had his name in my head now. Deontay Smith, isn't that right? From East Carolina. Yeah. I think he has a very good shot of potentially becoming our right tackle. I could see a battle between him and Adeniji in next year or two, maybe, to replace Riley Reef at tackle. And that way you leave Carmen at guard, and you might hopefully have a Max Montoya at guard. Maybe Carmen Jackson can turn into that, and you have your right tackle already in your system. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that Carmen looks like a guard, so I would not be opposed to him staying at guard. I think that could be his best career option. I think he could play really well there with his movement ability and the way that he plays. But as far as right tackle of the future, I do think that Deontay Smith is probably a much better prospect than Hakeem Adeniji, although both guys have tools.
Right.
Adeniji coming from Kansas, it's just hard. It's just
Mm-hmm.
hard to come from Kansas
Yeah.
into the NFL. And it's also hard to come from
From
ECU
East Carolina.
into the NFL.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that Deontay Smith, the length is really attractive. I think he had a great week at the Senior Bowl. He played inside and outside of the Senior Bowl. We also talked about Smith today on the Locked On Bengals podcast that's coming out a little bit later. But the thing about Smith is he was very good at both spots at the Senior Bowl. And, I was talking to a Bengals coach about him actually, and we were talking about his length.
Mm-hmm.
That length is rare.
Yes.
Especially in this draft. And the fact that he was back in rookie camp, back up to 310, 311 pounds.
Right.
If he's like the traditional developmental tackle prospect that if they can get him right, and he does have a shorter timeline than most, because I'm pretty sure he's a little bit older coming into the league. I think he was 23 or so, instead of like a 21-year-old. Like Mike Jordan was 21 coming into the league.
Right.
He's still one of the youngest players on the roster. But he'll have a little bit of a steeper curve. He needs to get up to speed a little bit quicker. But I think he certainly has a shot to be a very good player in the NFL if he puts it together. He has a lot of tools to work with in that kit.
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing is about this draft, I think we have a shot. If Smith does eventually become our starting right tackle, you got a potential of 5 guys, counting the kicker, that could be starters on this team with Osai, and I think Sample could be a potential starter in the future too.
Yeah, I think that that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, if they actually do end up extending Sam Hubbard, I guess, after they just invested so heavily in the defensive line. I think they will. I do think they will, because these rookies have 4 years on their deal, and Hubbard probably signs some extensions similar to that, where they would be concluding at the same time, and then they can make a decision about which of the young guys they want to keep and which are playing well, which have lived up to expectations. Sorry, what was the question? I lost the question in that little sidebar.
About Sample, do you think he could eventually
Sample.
could he eventually be a star? I said we could have potential 5 starters, I think, eventually out of this draft.
I think that, you look at drafts immediately after the draft a lot of the time, and you look at it and you say, you can see the vision. I can see how all these guys fit. And, you look back, and I'm going to just pull up Bengals draft history here on my other monitor over here. And we'll just talk about a draft class. Let's just go back to, 2019. Didn't really see the plan for Drew Sample in the second round, right? But Jonah Williams made a ton of sense. He was going to start right away.
Right.
Jermaine Pratt was the best linebacker, one of the 2 best linebackers we had on our board at that point in the 3rd round. So that made sense. He was going to be, he was going to probably need a year because he transitioned from safety to linebacker and missed some time at NC State. And this is really a pretty big make or break year for him. Ryan Finley didn't really see that pick at the time. Didn't understand the trade up. They wanted him to be a backup. It kind of is what it is. It didn't work out.
He got released by Texas or from Houston today.
He did. Renell Wren, in some ways, is similar to Deontay Smith. Actually, they're both a little bit older. Renell Wren was a more athletic guy. Didn't really have the production. Similarly to how Deontay Smith comes into the league a little bit older and from a smaller school, and he missed a year with the COVID complications. Mike Jordan was a developmental guard, and you could see at the time when they drafted him. I didn't really love the pick at the time, quite frankly, but I could see at the time when they drafted him, okay, they can develop him. He's young. He could start in a couple of years. And now we're at the point where I thought he might start. And then what we have? Trayvon Williams. I love that pick. I like the late running backs that year. I thought one of them had a chance to stick. Didn't really get the Deshaun Davis pick. Didn't have the production or the athleticism they usually look for at linebacker.
Right.
Jordan Brown, really liked that pick too in the 7th round that year. So you go back a couple years ago and you think about what we thought about that class, and you can kind of see the vision there. I can make a strong case for every guy this year too, but it was a weird draft class. It was a shallow draft class. About a third of the player pool that you normally have coming out of college came out this year. A lot of guys took advantage of an extra year and went back to school.
Right.
And I talked to some coaches about that too. They're excited to see those guys next year.
Right.
And I also think that's going to be weird next year. You're going to have some older guys coming out next year than you normally would, and it'll be interesting to see how NFL teams deal with that. But yeah, certainly best case. I mean, I think Jamar Chase, Jackson Carman are starters.
Right.
I think Osai is going to start out as a rotational guy. Sample's going to start out as a rotational guy, but I think Sample has a little bit more every down in him than Osai.
Well, he can play inside and outside too, so I think that makes him more versatile too.
Yeah, and Osai I think is still going to be learning edge rusher a little bit because that he was an off-ball linebacker at Texas until last year.
Right.
Deontay Smith could certainly start at some point. Tyler Shelvin,
Big Daddy Bayou.
he could inherit the DJ Reader role, but it's not an every down role. So he's not going to be on the field 60-70% of the snaps. He's going to be on the field 40-50% of the snaps in a heavy usage game because that's the way the NFL is going for guys like him. But he's going to be a contributor.
Don't forget about the kicker. I know you love the kicker pick.
I'm getting there. We talked about Deontay Smith and then Evan McPherson. I mean, he's going to start.
Yeah.
He's going to be the kicker, I hope. If he's not, then I'm going to rip this pick more than I already have. I mean, here's the thing. I get it, but my personal philosophy is don't draft kickers.
Right.
And you'd pick a kicker in the 5th round, at the top of the 5th round. He better be good. And I hope he's good because they do need a kicker. Trey Hill, developmental center. You see if he sticks, he might go to the practice squad. Chris Evans, love it. I like 6th-round running back picks. I like Trayvon Williams. I liked Rodney Anderson. Rodney Anderson was a real lottery ticket. Chris Evans, similar. Great athlete.
Captain America.
He's a little bit older coming into the league because he missed time at Michigan because of the suspension.
Right.
But, he's said to have been a very aware and capable pass blocker in the backfield for Michigan, as well as, putting on a show at the Senior Bowl as a receiver. So a lot to really like there, a lot of upside there with Chris Evans. And Wyatt Hubert's a guy they had, I think, a 5th-round grade on probably when they got him in the 7th round, and that made it a no-brainer pick for them, even though it was a 3rd edge.
Now we got a question here from Elite 83. He says, how do you feel about Logan Wilson? And I guess is developing into the second year starter now for the Bengals.
It's a big year for him, right? He turns 25 in July. So he kind of has to be ready this year. He has to be at least average this year. And he showed signs of it last year. I think he's smart enough. I think he's got the tools. I think he has the athleticism. I think he can be really good. Lou Anarumo's defense has had a hard time getting anything out of the linebackers, regardless of who they are.
Well, so
hopefully the talent level makes a difference because, they have invested in the position at this point, and I don't want to be talking about linebacker again next year.
Well, I think if they can get pressure on the quarterback, and I think Lou has the talent. This is the most talent he's had, I think, in the 3 years that him and Zach have been here. And it goes to Zach, too. They're just the most talented team that they've had. I said that a couple of times. If they can get pressure on the quarterback, that's going to help the linebackers. That's going to help a lot of stuff.
And the thing is, the Bengals only use 2 linebackers. And the bigger deal, I think, is going to be if you have Tyler Shelvin and DJ Reader on the field at the same time because you know a run is coming or you suspect a run is coming. That makes the linebacker's job a lot easier. I'm going to be very interested to see if they do put those guys on the field together.
I hope so. That would be so cool.
I think it'll be rare because the thing is you put those guys on the field and there are ways to exploit it, right? Yeah. They're not sideline to sideline guys, obviously.
Right. But the thing is, I mean, that's where the Clowns and the Ravens killed us last year was running. And that's where I think that's where I like that the Tyler Shelvin pick, Big Day by you, and hopefully get a full year of DJ Reader, is if we can stop the run with these guys, we're going to have a chance. That's how that's how we beat the Browns and the Ratbirds.
That was definitely a part of the thought process from the Bengals. I mean, I think we heard it when we talked to, Mike Potts after the draft, their director of college scouting. You look around the division, and I think maybe this was a coach I was talking to too. I can't remember, but you look around the division and you look at like the Ravens with Brandon Williams and formerly the guy that went to Minnesota, whose name I forget. Two giant dudes in the middle that are hard to move.
Right.
You look at the Steelers, they got Stephon Tuitt and Cam Hayward in there. Giants that are hard to move. And it's just hard to run the ball in them. You put those guys on the field and you say, well, you're not running up the middle. You're not moving me, and I can two-gap.
Right.
Which not very many players in the NFL two-gap anymore. But DJ Reader and Tyler Shelvin are big enough and strong enough to control blocks and two-gap if they need to.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just don't know if they're going to do it. because two gapping is really out of style right now. And so it'll just be interesting to see if Lou gets it together and can be cohesive on this defense with the way they're trying to be very multiple in the front seven and figure out a way to get pressure and stop the run without betraying, his intentions with the personnel he has on the field. So that'll be his challenge.
Right. So what, I guess my question is, I think I've asked this before in the podcast, what is Lou's scheme? what, I mean, I still, in 2 years, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what he's trying to accomplish on his defense, so that's the point. It's like is he 3-4? Is he 4-3? What is he actually trying to do? Have you been able to figure it out yet?
I wouldn't really worry myself about whether it's 3-4 or 4-3, because in today's NFL, I think those are pretty much the same thing.
Right.
Just with, it looks a little different because you have some guys standing up. I mean,
right.
Nobody's really two gapping. Nobody's playing a two gapping 3-4 in the NFL anymore, the way Dick LeBeau used to do with the Steelers, right?
Well, the biggest thing I can't stand is it's like he doesn't put pressure on the guys. The cornerbacks always back up. I don't know. That's just he's more of a prevent. It seems like he's more of a prevent defense than because.
I don't know if that's something that I totally agree with. I mean, he's going to do a lot of single high stuff. There's going to be a lot of cover one. He's going to play press man. I think that the guys that he's got at corner, he wants to play press man if they stay healthy. And they're going to play some cover three. I think that, they're with Jesse Bates as your center fielder, you're primarily a single high team. And that's what they're going to do. And with the corners they have, I think that they're going to feel really comfortable with Trey Waynes in particular in press man. I think Awuzie, I'm not sure if his skill set is quite suited for press man, but he's a great athlete and he's coming off a down year. So I wouldn't look too much at his last year when he was hurt for an indication of what he can do. He can be a really good football player. Mike Hilton is the best blitzing slot corner in the NFL.
Right.
So you talk about blitzing, wanting a guy to bring some heat. You add all these pass rushers in Osai and Sample, and they get Ogunjobi to replace Gino, who's still out there. I still think they need a little bit more interior defensive line depth, but you get Josh Tupou back. There's a lot more depth there. There's a lot more to the rotation, I think, at this point that certainly helps. And we'll see if it's enough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Marion Hobby in there, maybe he designs some different pressures, but he has a lot of tools. So he can be multiple up front. He can go with the 5-man fronts if he wants. He can stand guys up. He can move guys around. He's got defensive linemen that can line up outside, that can line up inside at this point, and Sam Hubbard and Cam Sample. And he has a couple guys that can two gap. So really he has all the pieces right now in May before guys get hurt in training camp. And, you knock on wood, you never, I mean, I was talking to James, all I care about, people are talking, and our episode today is like, what are the storylines to watch in OTAs? Right. And, I'll talk about storylines that I care about and things that are going to be interesting to watch. But all you really care about is don't get hurt. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the biggest thing is don't get hurt, because I do think they have a shot of, if they're all healthy, of actually getting pressure on the quarterback. And to me, I mean, obviously that's the key to this whole thing. If you can get pressure on the quarterback, it makes everybody else's job 10 times easier. So,
and it's been an area they've been sorely lacking.
Oh yeah. I mean, we had one pass rusher last year. That was it. And he's in New York now. But anyway, it's 6:10. I know you said you can only give me a little while, so I'm going to let you roll on out of here, Jake. And I apologize for putting Joe Goodberry's name up there instead of yours. My bad.
It's all right. It's just a technical issue. All good.
Other than that, hey, check out Jake and James. They do Locked On Bengals podcast every day. It's awesome. I listen to them every night at work, so I will definitely be listening to you guys tomorrow. Oh, yeah, real quick. I got to ask you.
Yeah.
You on my show, you asked me, since I'm strawberry ice, to like strawberry ice or strawberry milk or chocolate milk. I like chocolate milk. Well, I got to find the answer. What's yours?
I don't think I gave you the choice of chocolate milk. I asked you if your favorite flavor of milk was strawberry. What is your favorite flavor of milk, and why is it strawberry?
Yeah, it's chocolate.
Yeah,
it's strawberry just because I have a red face, and back in the day when I was on radio, Vanilla Ice was big, so they called me strawberry. So
there you go. Good. I don't really drink milk anymore. I drink coconut milk at this point in my life. Sometimes almond milk, and I prefer it. But when I was younger, nobody drinks strawberry milk.
Exactly.
Nobody does. I tried it once when I was young, and it was awful.
Oh, actually, the funny thing, my nephews, they love strawberry milk.
It's unnatural, man.
I was there at my sister's house when they're younger, and she's pouring them. I'm like, what is that? She goes, it's strawberry milk. I'm like, and you drink that? Like, she's like, they love it. I'm like,
no.
All right, whatever.
No thanks, man. No thanks.
Exactly. All right, Jake. Well, as always, I appreciate you, brother. And check out his podcast. And other than that, Hoo day.
Thanks, man. Hoo day. Have a good one.
See you, buddy. All right, guys. That was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed. I always enjoy having Jake on here. I can't believe I played Joe Goodberry. If Joe is watching, he will crack up laughing, and he'll probably tweet Jake out or tweet me out or something. Hey, Joe, if you are watching, I need you to get back on the show too sometime so we can talk some Bengals. Anyway, that brings me to the Facebook groups that let me live stream. And as always, I appreciate every single one of them. And I invite you guys to join them. They are Hoo Day Nation, Cincinnati Reds, rounding third, heading for home, Bearcat Country, Ohio State Bucknuts, The Ice Bar. And then you can follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Twitter handle is Jeff A. Trennepohl. That's TRENNEPOHL. I'm on Instagram, TikTok. The handle there is Iceman90. I'll be pulling the sound off this later on tonight. So if you can't sit there and watch me for it's like 45 minutes now, usually an hour, but about 45 minutes today, you can listen to it. I'm on BeanPod, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you like, rate, and review, and give me a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate it. YouTubers, like I said, we're at 1,119. That is awesome. So if you guys are watching it on Twitter, or if you're watching it on any of the Facebook groups or anything, do me a favor. Please go to the YouTube channel and please subscribe, because when I get to 10,000 subscribers, which who knows when that'll be, I will give away a jersey or something really, really cool. But you get me to 10,000 and I'll figure out something really cool to give away. And other than that, we got a great show coming up tomorrow. So make sure you join us live at 5:30 as always. And as Jeremy, not known as Dimebag Dean, would say, everybody all together now. Remember one thing and one thing only. And that is, you don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati, so act like it. Hoo Day! That's just sports, baby. See ya!